Ladies and gentlemen, I think we should begin. Hello and welcome. This is Paul. I am very excited about today's session. It's called, as you will see on your screen, Redefining Content Standards with Technology. And when I say with technology, I don't mean, of course, exclusively with technology. I mean, as you can see on the little sentence underneath, how AI and human combinations are reshaping content excellence. So we're going to be cyborgs today, shall we say. We're going to be talking about how both human and technology can come together, confuse together to create something hopefully beautiful as well as, of course, useful. And the good news is that I'm going to be joined, I'll introduce them in just a moment, by some fantastic panelists who are going to take us through a good conversation today. Those of you who've been on my webinars before will know that I would love at this point for you to say a quick hello. So open up that chat window. A couple of people have already said hello. So tell us where you are calling in from. Tell us if there's a specific question that you might want to get answered or a specific reason why you decided to come to today's session. I want to hear from you for sure. So let's have everyone introduce themselves, please. In the meantime, I'll just quickly give you a little moment of rationale. Why did we decide to focus on this topic? And we've got more than 400 of you signed up. And of course, AI, technology, it's everywhere. It's ablaze. And sometimes it can be quite hard to separate fiction and fact. Sometimes it can be hard to see the wood from the trees. And most importantly, what does the most potent combination of human and technology actually look like? Well, that's what we're going to try and figure out today. What is that ultimate team? And what are we going to try and aim for? What's the actual vision? You know, are we just in experimentation mode, or do we have a specific vision that we can aim for as we go ahead? So let's have a quick look at who will be joining me. So firstly, we've got Lynn. Lynn is a friend. She was actually on a webinar a couple of months ago, did a great job. So we've invited her back. She's the Senior Director and Head of HCP Multi-Channel Engagement at Danone. And she's a really cool person. I've really enjoyed getting to know Lynn very well over the last couple of years. And she's a real dynamic leader. So thank you so much for being here, Lynn. Really appreciate it. Nina, someone I got to know 2.5, 3 years ago. Again, a force for good. She's now at UCB, and she's the omnichannel and content lead for dermatology there. She was previously in charge of global medical education omnichannel at Grunenthal, which of course is where Carolina from one of our other speakers is from. And she has a lot of expertise across campaign management, consulting, and measurement. So Nina, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate your time. Tor is someone who I invite to my webinars regularly. There's a very good reason for that, because he's often the smartest guy in the room, especially if I'm in that same room with him. He is, I hope he doesn't mind me saying, a tour de force when it comes to understanding the technology and how we can use it in our industry. Someone who is always at the cutting edge and understands what the future might look like in this space. He's the Chief Innovation Officer now at Anthill, of course, and thank you also to Anthill colleagues who have helped make sure today's webinar is happening and been great partners as always. Carolina Caro is at Grunenthal, someone who I saw on stage not so long ago, and I thought, I need her for my webinars, and thankfully she is here today. She's the Global Omnichannel Operation Lead at Grunenthal, and she's got a strong background in PR, marketing, communication. She's been working on digital initiatives at both Grunenthal and at Pfizer, and is a focus as an expert on customer experience through personalized content. So thank you so much, Cara, for being here as well. Now, before we get them all to turn their cameras on, I'm just going to quickly remind you that, firstly, the panelists are speaking from their own personal perspective, not necessarily representing their company. Secondly, it is being recorded today, so you don't need to ask me. We will send you a recording afterwards. And thirdly, you remember answering a couple of extra questions when you registered for this webinar. Let's have a quick look at those questions and what you answered. First one was this. So the question is at the top left. What would you consider the primary use of AI to best support pharma marketing? So here's the full list. Only 1% of people saying best practices. A clear winner on the right-hand side there. Create more content faster. to improve efficiency. And the second one, of course, create more content faster to enable better reactions and dialogue, a sort of two-way street as opposed to just a one-way. Another 20%, enable ease of creating entire campaigns. What's really interesting to me here is that when I've asked surveys like this in the past, it's been less about the creation and more about the management and the analysis and the performance. So that's really interesting that we are considering this as a creative force increasingly. And I think that's kind of the next step in the hierarchy with AI in general. So that's really interesting. And what was the next question? It was this. Which common KPI will be most improved by AI-assisted content creation and production in the next 2 years? So have a look. We've got a reasonable spread of results, 21% on personalization, 20% faster content time to market, 18% on increased customer satisfaction, 17% on faster or reduced MLR review rounds. So yeah, quite a lot, I think, is what you can probably say. There was definitely no clear winner, no clear polarization. I think we are hoping for AI to be a panacea across the board and perhaps a more generalist tool. Okay, so that's really, really interesting. If you want to see what we've got, this is actually our last scheduled webinar for the year. So you get a little bit of breathing space now from me and my messages. But if you want to see what's coming up, then make sure you have a look at that QR code right now. And I'm going to ask our panel to turn their cameras on at this point. Let's say hello to them. Marvelous. And as they arrive, I'm actually going to get you guys in the audience to do one more poll question for me. So if you look at your screen right now, you will see it launching. Zoom's kind of slowed down a bit recently, so it might take a second. It's a 3-part question. So don't, yeah, you know, I'm straight in there, you know, with the work. You know, this is not a vacation. Straight in there, 3 parts. Right now, how are you using AI to improve HCP engagement? Right now, lots of options there. Number 2, if you had unlimited access to a fully optimized AI-driven content engine, you had a genie, basically, what would you believe would be the most significant change that you would see? And then there's a final one. What type of AI insight would bring the most value to your content creation efforts? Because it's a 3-part, I'm actually going to hold this open for maybe 5 minutes. So you've got plenty of time to look at those and to respond to them. Going to get rid of my slides so I can see everyone's smiling faces. There we are. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And guys, I want to kick off the conversation. Thank you again for being here. Understanding the current barriers is where I want to start. When it comes to using technology, when it comes to being more efficient and more capable with our content, why aren't we further ahead than where we are today? Most of us have been doing some kind of digital transformation before the pandemic, and obviously was accelerated during it. So that was coming up to 5 years ago. Shock horror. It's quite hard to believe, isn't it? So we can't use any excuses anymore. What are the barriers and the frustrations that you guys are feeling right now? Whoever wants to go first can kick that off.
I can go.
Please, Caro. Fantastic.
With all the energy. So here, well, I think what I see, especially in all the different pharmas, or what we are seeing, especially now, is the lack of the integration of the platform and also the unification of the data. So if we want to really maximize this personalization and creation of the content, if we are not having this integration and this unification of data, we are just building or creating content as we always in pharma we are doing, and we are really all traditional pharma. So what we are seeing also the different versus Grunenthal and another pharma that we accelerate a little bit this unification. So with that, we are available to really create personalized unification, or personalized content based on the behavior, based on the interaction. And I think nowadays we are available to really say, okay, we are deliver the content in the perfect moment, in the right with the right content and with the right channel. I think one of the key points, in my case, what I see is that, and also is the we need to change the mindset of the people because we are, and I have been working in creation of content since I started in pharma. And the normal way is you create content based on what you think that the HCPs want to receive. But nowadays we have so many data and insight that we need to try to change that mindset and understand the data. And based on data, we need to create the content. I don't know what the Dean or Nina thinks about that.
Well, Kara, just quickly before we go to them, you talked about the lack of unification of data. And I would argue that we've also been trying to do that for the last 5 years as well. What again is if you had to pinpoint one thing that you would say is the frustration there, because everybody wants it, right? I've never met anyone that says no. I mean, they might say hands off my data, but they, in general, from a strategic point of view, they don't say no. Why can't we do it?
I think especially, well, first it's difficult, especially if you work in big pharma. Maybe we are compared because we are in middle pharma, and we could move easier or faster. But I think it's how we are sharing the insight of this unification of data or the why is necessary. And I remember when my agency at Tower Thinking jumped me 3 years ago, Cara, we need to implement CDP to unification data. I was in Chile and I say, why? We have everything. We have our GOMEX team that are analyzing everything. But then when they really start sharing the insight and the real value to get real data in real time is a huge change, and you can see it.
Thank you, Kara. I appreciate that it's difficult, and I appreciate the honesty. Nina or Lynn? Nina, you've unmuted yourself, so you've.
Yeah. I want to add, because I agree with Caro, and I think, also we need to work more together, don't we? I mean, we have, tech people, we have people that look at insights, we have people that create content, and we all want to innovate and use technology, but unless we have this circle, we are not going to come anywhere, right? I mean, I can develop content with AI, whatever, very fast, but if it's not developed based on insights, it's, sits somewhere else perhaps, or being reviewed and approved fast, then it doesn't make a difference, does it? It's still not getting to where we want it to get. So I think that working together, perhaps breaking silos, whatever we call it, I think it's also very important.
Okay, working together sounds deceptively simple, but I know how hard it is. Lynn, I would love to bring you in.
Sure. So from my side, I think data is definitely the foundations. Why we haven't been able to fix data is probably because it's not the sexiest topic in the world to get people like around the table on, because when I pitch something to the teams around, yes, we're going to use AI to, optimize our content supply chain. Everybody goes like, oh my God, that's amazing. We all want to do it. And then I said, well, first we need to spend, 500,000 on fixing our data fundamental. And it's going to take, at least 6 months. And I'm going to need a team of 5 to do it. And everybody goes like, oh, okay, maybe not. So I think what we're doing in Danone is being very specific around the use cases. And then we're partnering with Thor and the team. And I really want to say that it's really cool how they're actually managing, us as well as a company, because this a process and a journey to start utilizing technology and AI. And new technology coming into a big corporation with legacy system is even harder. So having us focus more on use cases and solving for business needs has really helped us kind of get a use case up, identify the roadmap, and just take small steps and dissecting the small steps is really helping us getting people around the table, getting the right people to talk about the topic. So we're not trying to solve all of the data issues as once. We're just doing it use case by use case. And I can appreciate from a scalability point of view is not going from 0 to the moon, the AI moon, but it is helping us progress steadily in the right direction. And I really think that for us has worked so far.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Yeah, can I jump also? I think I really like what the Lynn say, because especially nowadays we need to share and show. When you work in this digital transformation, you always are talking, okay, the content we know is a pain point for everyone, especially with the marketeers. They don't have time. The approval process is super long. But when you unify the data and you are start using all these use case based on AI driven, is the benefit also for the marketing team, because you are getting more insight, or you are available to create always on a strategy. So you work a lot in the setup, and then based on the user story, behavior, you can start recommended content, related content, and you see the benefits of improving on the engagement in the user in the web from, I don't know, in our case, we saw an improvement from 11% to 60% of the improvement of engagement. They are using more the content, they are using more the recommended information, and it's a benefit also for the marketing team. There is a other use case that I would share, and marketing say, oh, I don't have time to create more content. And I say, there is no need. First, we try to create a remarketing campaign very focused on retention. So we saw all the physicians that we didn't went back almost in the 30 days in the web. It was more than 600 people, but it wasn't not only the data that we get. All those people, they didn't review all the data. So almost 45% of them, they only saw the homepage. So if you see all the data and the information that we have, and also the historical data, you are available to re-engage them, recommend it, and not only send them a simple campaign like, oh, we miss you. We miss you, but here's the content that is based on behavior, based on your preference. And you can see more retention, more engaged, and in the long term, it's a huge benefit for everyone.
Thank you, Cara. I really appreciate you jumping in there and giving us some sense. And by the way, thanks to those of you in the chat who are also answering this question. I really want everybody, not just our panelists here, to be answering all of these questions. Tor, I'm going to come to you in just a second, but before I do that, I'm just going to end the poll. Thank you to everyone who participated there. We'll have a quick look at the results, because I think some of them are looking quite interesting. So hopefully appear on your screen in just a second. The first one right now, how are you using AI to improve HCP engagement? And this one was actually a multiple choice one, I hope you realized. Creating content and images more efficiently got nearly 50% of people's votes. Notable high numbers for generating insights, what drives the most meaningful. So I'm glad we're using this for learning. And of course, personalizing, and personalizing was the winner of the next one as well, I saw. So, oh, by the way, 22% of people saying none of the above yet, which I thought was interesting. Question 2, if you had unlimited access to a fully optimized AI-driven content engine, what would you do? And personalization is the clear winner there, nearly 40% of the vote. I'm a bit controversial because I don't know if I'm fully on board with personalization as being the holy grail, if I'm honest. I think it's partly a symptom of us not creating engaging enough content in the first place, that we then want to personalize it to bring it up to that more engaging level. But hey, shoot me. That's just my opinion. Anyway, obviously lower numbers for pretty much everything else. Agility and faster approvals getting a notable mention. And then finally, what type of AI insight would bring the most value? So actually reasonable spread here again. Nothing was the loser, really. 31% for predictive analytics, 30% for insights into content performance, 22% for our friends who are having difficulty with MLR, and of course, 17% for creative idea generation. Interesting how the idea generation was now in last place compared to the previous poll that I ran, where creative content production was in first place. Very interesting. Okay, might have to look into that one again sometime. Tor, we've been all talking about the frustrations that we have. You at Anthill get to look across multiple clients, multiple situations. You get to maybe think about this across the board. Where do you think the frustration is coming from? Where does it sort of land on your desk?
Well, a lot of the conversations that we have, and we've, as you said, we've been engaging with a lot of different companies. I've got some material on this a bit later, but there are two sides. One is access to the value that already exists within pharma, whether that's sitting in your PromoMats or your MedComms vault or whatever you're using in place of that. There's a huge amount of value there that's already approved, that's already known, that is being underserved, underused, and generally undiscovered. And when we talk to people who say, well, we need to make new material, either they didn't find what was there, they didn't adapt what was ready for adapting, and it's because there was some barrier getting in the way, whether it was language or discoverability. And that leads us back down the path of wasting time and budget building the same thing once again, slightly differently, when we didn't really have to. As you were saying earlier, you might already have that data, you could just be resharing, but because we're not accessing or understanding it, we don't get to leverage it. And then the next, I was really happy to see those survey results, because for us, it is all about how do we translate the things that we want you to help discover into new content, and not just one piece of content. Our vision here at Anthill is really building that genie, building a system that will let you say, I need to engage with these segments, these people in this way. What's the right way of doing it? We're talking and sparring with our partners around, hey, can I click on this account and not just get a field next best action, but can we talk about next best content? And maybe not even find the next most relevant piece of content, but can we enable people to create that for that person? There's a lot of things that we're looking at across the pipeline, but this bottlenecks and not being able to find the things to get through that bottleneck with these systems, it's shared everywhere. And that's been driving a lot of our product and research decisions.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Tor. I think a lot of sense that you've speaking there. I'm actually going to, now that you gave us that quick overview, really, of where you're seeing the bottlenecks, etc., I'm going to ask the audience for their opinions on where the challenges are coming from. So hopefully in a second, takes a bit slow these days, you'll see the question appear. What do you see as the biggest barrier is the first part, and the second part is, which area of AI's impact in content do you think is currently overstated? And that's going to lead me on to the next bit of the conversation. I want to talk about AI specifically just for a few minutes, if that's okay. We already talked about challenges in general. I want to just focus now on challenges and frustrations with AI adoption. Now, Carolina, I happen to know that in your company, you've been very experimental when it comes to the use of AI, multiple, double figures of pilot projects. And given, as you said, you're a medium-sized and not a large-sized company, I think that's quite a lot relative to your size. I'm interested in how that's gone for you and whether that's something that you feel that is actually, where it came from, I guess is what I'm asking, Carolina, because so many of us, of course, are still frustrated by what we're able to do here. You just saw 22% of people not even doing anything yet. And Nina and Lynn, I would love to hear about your frustrations on the use of technology AI as well. Cara, do you want to start? We'll start with a good example, which is
yes,
you.
of course. Well, first, the Florian was leading the Grunenthal in digital transformation. So, of course, last year he pushed us, okay, what is going to be the AI pilot that we are going to do, especially very focused on the business need. So, in that moment, we realized more than 80 a pilot, but we weren't available to
80?
implement.
Just 80, yeah?
80 use case.
Wow.
But we were available to implement everything because we need to move faster. So based on that, we reduced it only for 15. And those AI pilots, we also separate which are more easier and faster to implement with the actual platform that we have, which are needed from extra agency, other things. So I think we separate a little bit and we try to be more realistic. So in our case, regarding the comics, I think we implement two different use cases, very amazing and also with the result. One was leading for the Italian team. That also next week they're gonna share some webinar with the agency. Christina and Nicolas are more that invited to that webinar, but they shared how we can implement sentiment analysis in the open text. And you say open text in pharma. What do you say? Compliance? What do you say? Pharmacovigilance? So I think that was the challenge. So what we saw in that pilot, and of course they will share more insight. What we saw is first you need to accompany, especially in this pilot, the human eye. So we saw efficiency on that analysis more than 60% versus human analysis. So we are seeing more that we are more efficiency to see that. Also, we identify that, of course, we have some positive false information, but we have that human eye that could identify. But when you see the whole pilot and the whole process, it was a really amazing results. We have a 95% of accuracy. Also, we have a 99% of CSAR. So you see the power of this human and this combination with AI to be more efficient, to be more in time. And also, I think the most important is that when you tackle something, especially after a webinar, and you identify, okay, my physician didn't have a really good experience in the webinar. And if you tag that information in the right moment, you can improve the customer experience in the moment. That is one. And the other that we were working with the Spain team, that also we are going to try to share other information. With the Spain team, we work in Next Step Engage or Next Step in two different pilots, we say. Next Step Engage, full digital, very focused on reconnect, re-engage the physician that are wearing the unbranded web page, try to create some campaign, recommended content, related content. So for that also was a huge project, especially for the team, because it's not, we're seeing now the result, the increase of the engage, also the impression that was good, but it was a really hard work with the team. You need to tag the content, you need to have everything set up to accelerate that personalization. So I think so far we are seeing, especially those use cases, that we are available to improve the customer experience because we are getting the data. We're focused on react in the moment, and I think that is the most important. And maybe you say, well, I don't believe a lot of personalization, but if you change the mindset from send just a single email from 10,000 physicians, and now specify, especially with the specialty, what you want to see, and maybe now start improving the user experience in the web. Not everybody need to see the same home. Maybe you will see another content based on your behavior, and I will see another information. So I think those small change, if we compare 10 years ago, we didn't have that data or that possibility. So I think it's a huge improvement, and especially if you see the team that they are seeing this as a benefit, is a game changer. And the last one that we are seeing, we have plenty, and I can keep talking about that, tagging, Copilot, and other things. But the other that we mentioned, and we were also in the Spain team, it was to give them more insight from the digital experience or the digital behavior that we are having with the user to the sales rep. So before the cycle plan start, we give them some insight. Okay, this is the behavior that your physician has in the digital world, because they don't have that visibility. So based on that, we create a new suggestion, and we say, okay, those physicians that you are going to see in the cycle, they have this opportunity, this behavior, and maybe you can tackle in a moment. This decision is yours. So that is the most important. And then you can reinforce, okay, you haven't visited your physician, remember they have, I don't know, they saw the content, they are really interested in a product. So I think it's very important to tackle this AI data-driven, and involve them, because especially if you are working with a sales team or physician, you need to involve them. So in our case, in the beginning, we were really working together with all the local team. Also, the field force were seeing what they're going to receive, how they were going to receive, and they were really involved in the process. I think that is my recommendation.
Thank you, Carolina. I think my next white paper is just going to be focused all on you and your pilots at Greenham. So much learning just from that. And I hear what you're saying about personalization. And thank you also for bringing in the sales rep as well as an important place. Lynn and Nina, I would love to hear your thoughts on bringing AI to life within your organizations.
Sure, I can go first. I think it hasn't been an issue to get excitement around the topic because, since the launch of ChatGPT, everybody has been talking about AI. Now, how does that translate into concrete projects has been somewhat different in the company. So I think a lot of the times it's kind of a bottom up approach as well. So in a lot of cases, we see a lot of teams saying, oh, we want to try AI, we want to do it like this. So there wasn't really in the beginning a strong governance around the AI and management of AI in our organization, because we're a very decentralized organization. So of course we have headquarters, but a lot of the our countries are actually able to make sort of decisions and investments around this as well. But I think coming out of the whole chat CBT excitement, we're now I think 1.5 year down the line, and we haven't really seen that many use cases of AI flourish as much as we wanted. Because in the end, my thinking, okay, AI is going to take over maybe 20% of all of the tasks that marketeers could be doing in any given scenario if we do the right planning and if we use the right tools. But that hasn't really happened. So I would say, but it's not to say that Danone as an organization isn't supportive of AI, because I think it's our leadership and our leaders are extremely supportive of it. But we need to find the right, I think, use cases and business cases surrounding it. So the way we approach it in my team is really identifying what is the biggest value at stake if we use AI can have. And it is really coming from a business perspective as well. Because my thinking and my strategy around, we drive more engagement with HCPs basically to get them to convert to recommend or to prescribe our products, right? I can't do that without starting to personalize more, because right now we create one campaign for all pediatricians, for example. We don't have the capacity to create 4 different types where we have 4 personas of pediatrician. Therefore, it's a huge bottleneck in my ability to actually engage with doctors to convert them. So there, AI could help me in that process. So we really kind of business planned it out, and we have a charter and we have a business plan on what is the value I'm going to be able to bring to the company if I'm able to do this, and this with AI. And that's really how we're pushing forward the right conversations around AI within my commercial function in Danone at the moment. So I think that has helped me a lot to really put dollar signs behind what AI can do for the bottom line. And then that's an approach that has worked quite well so far. So I'm going to continue down that route. And we have so far haven't had major, blocking points on this pursuit. So, in a couple of years, I would have saved the company a lot of money, and I would have, made an impact on the net sales, and I will be very happy.
It was all you, Lynn. Let's just make sure.
Although it's AI. Today we were in a discussion with the team of like, okay, how many content teams do I need? How big does it do? And the pushback from IT was like, well, Lynn, you don't need anybody because you have AI now. So there's a double-edged sword there somewhere. But
I think you could have. All you had to do was say, "Show me the money." I think that was.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Nina, I'd love a minute from you if that's okay.
What can I add? I was thinking, because you guys, I agree with what you said,
Well,
right?
if you don't...
Perhaps.
No obligation.
I'm thinking we don't have 80 projects that I can show off. So perhaps that's the difference, and might be speaking to some of the people in the audience. I think I see a lot of, what it was said in the chats, right? Why do we do it? What's the risk? And it's always about how do we turn it around? Let's not start with risks. What are the opportunities? And I'm really a content person, right? I'm not a tech or analytics or data. I'm really content. And I see a lot of opportunities. I have people everywhere that see opportunities, right? And I think we are at the stage now, how do we connect around it, right? So that we get the full circle. Because again, even if we use, I saw it in the chat, agencies that create AI content, if I don't get it approved fast, I'll have a lot of AI created content, waiting for approval that doesn't get anywhere, right? So I think that's the thing. How do we spread enthusiasm? How do we spread positivity? How do we spread good examples? A bit what Carolina, you said, right? I think it worked in Grunenthal. It's going to work everywhere, right? How do we show that it's working and it's impacting, back to lean, but perhaps also simpler? I'm thinking, now I'm talking too fast. I'm thinking medical as well, right? There are so many opportunities in medical when we talk about learning objectives, getting physicians somewhere, so much, right? So trying to connect people and seeing how we can do it, not only from commercial, but also, across one company. I think that's where I can also bring a lot.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to end this poll and quickly share the results. Thank you very much, by the way, Nina, for sharing that. And Tor, I would love you to move us from challenges to solutions, I think, at this point, if that's okay. Let me just quickly share the results of this. Okay, what do you see as the biggest barrier? Compliance, privacy, regulatory, getting nearly a third of the vote there. So maybe no surprises, but I don't know. Concerns about accuracy and reliability. Interesting that hallucinations is still getting a quarter of the vote. I would have expected that to have come down a little further by now. Which area of AI's impacting content do you think is currently overstated? Speeding up the compliance and regulatory process is also the winner of that question as well. How funny is that? I'm guessing different people might have asked a different question there. But personalization, I'm sure my comment earlier wasn't influential at all, but 20%. Generating new and innovative ideas gets 23%. Well, yes, LLMs are based on historical information. So yeah, maybe, but they're certainly becoming more creative as they become more sophisticated, that's for sure. Tor, I would love to please help us move this conversation forward.
Well, on the one hand, I'm happy that I recognize all of these topics, and a lot of these are falling underneath the umbrella of user stories, of challenges, of things we've been trying to build solutions around. I love getting, curveballs and things, but also having spent the last year on this, I'm very happy that we feel like we've got a pretty good coverage. But I will, at this point, just hop over to a little bit of content to share with people today around what we've been doing in practice. And, Lynn was kind enough to mention the work that we're doing with Danone and her organization, but we're also partnering with other companies out there as well. And they do share a lot of overlap. But we always start with the end, the end customer, the actual audience, the people we're here talking with. If we exclude patients, it is the HCPs. These are the ones that want the personalized messaging, or perhaps on the other side, the relevant messaging, if we take personalization as maybe a little extra, as Paul was saying. Now, in practice, because I have to come at this from a very pragmatic point of view, it's telling marketeers, well, you need to make more material. You're going to be doing it on more channels. Guess what? We're on WhatsApp now. We need to transform more of these insights from the data that's fire hosing into your organization. We need to turn those into more messages. But you're very, very lucky if they say we've added another 0 to your budget. We're doing this very pragmatically, under limitations, within certain boundaries that we can't just break free of all at once. And those barriers are what I was getting to as things we see over and over again. The challenges around not paying to reinvent the wheel. Can I find the right piece of material that might already exist? Maybe it's in another market with a similar regulatory domain. Is my global organization able to work with our content and pick up global material despite speaking dozens and dozens of languages and having different contexts? When we're building that material, have we really cleared the bottlenecks out of the way? Why does it cost a linear increase when I'm asking for 5 rep-triggered emails versus 1 versus 15? Why can't we identify savings and accelerations? And why are we still, as an industry, so codependent on agencies? Even if you are one of these organizations that has centralized further and further, a lot of the capabilities that define what your brand is, how it looks, how you're communicating, are residing external to your actual marketing and brand organization. And then there's the challenge around personalization. How can we do it? Why does it cost what we face? And get this out of here. And why are we still trying to do it by hand? We know how we talk in different ways. Why can't we capture that? And of course, all of you are doing this, without having to have anything else going on in your life. I'm sure this is exactly what you spend 100% of your time thinking about. No, it's not. We have to fit this in between your compliance training and the 18 other meetings you've got that day. So about a year ago, we started working on a new initiative, which became a product that we call Arcane. And all of these concerns were what we wanted to fit into a platform that can help people. So we wanted to make it language independent. I want someone to be able to go in and ask questions in Danish or Korean or Japanese or Italian or English and access all of the content in all of these other languages as well, if that's relevant. We want a system that can translate not just your PDFs, but your PowerPoints and InDesign files and Figma files. We want something that can help assemble tactics and variations of tactics. We want to help not just the commercial organization, we want to help the medical organization. I was mentioning in the chat that we're working on that side with teams that are doing this to identify new scientific statements more rapidly and back them up more effectively. And of course, we can do that on the commercial side with the same technology. I want to say this. Is there any material I can use to justify that or back me up? And we also don't want to apply generic models to things. We want to make it really easy for people to say, hey, I gathered up information about my TA or about my disease area, and I can easily create a customized version of this AI that's specialized in those assets. And that, that's really the dream. We want to take someone who has to deal with all of these things during their day and actually translate that into a simple task. I mentioned in the chat that this is more about being an art director than a designer. It's more about being a system architect than a developer. We want to make marketeers able to say, I need an email for endos in Italy about the latest data study that we've got on deck here, and have it actually template that for me with the right approved material and pull it together in a way that I can send to the review team without feeling like it's going to be stalled out, like that image of all of your AI content piling up for review. In practice, we know we have to subdivide things. We have to make smaller sections. So we've created two main components, one for content assist for discovery and translation and learning and knowledge sharing, and one component which is all about authoring and content creation. And that's really the future. We want an AI that you can treat like that colleague who's been working at the business for 20 years, but also knows how to use a search engine. Someone who you can say, well, what data do we have about this competing product in Germany? And they can find it for you and explain it to you in your language. And that's something we can do today. And then again, as I mentioned, the translation. And just for fun, I translated my presentation using Arcane into these other languages here to increase my reach. Now, I'm aware we have some limited time. I'm going to speed through this, but I want to actually show and not just talk. So this is a build of Arcane sitting with our customers right now. And in this case, we're looking for info about GLP-1 RAs and eating disorders. I found a study. I'm going to get versions of this maybe in Norwegian or Japanese. My team can review that. I can always go back and forth to Vault with it to connect that to other materials. But now that I've found some of that, research that's going to drive my messaging, I can put that in a customized AI and start asking it for insights. Explain what the hell came out of this study. I don't have time to read this. So in this case, we have a system that's built with guardrails around hallucination to prevent that. Here we found some data. Everything we get out of it is linked back to the source material. So I can click in and see where that data came from the research, so I can justify using this message later on. And then I can move from the discovery phase to, well, help me create some content. I need to get this out there. So what was the effect of the treatment on these scores? What can we do with that? Well, in this case, it's explaining and it's, nicely formatting for me this data, explaining where there's a statistical difference. And as we move along, we can jump into actually creating, if I find my mouse here, just hopping forward a little bit. In this case, identifying claims from that research. This is exactly that scenario. So in this case, there are new things we want to say perhaps about our product. Instead of spending time on review, we can outsource that. Of course, we confirm it with the AI, but we can accelerate the work of our highly trained staff. Colleagues in pharma are the most educated, most talented people doing the most menial and manual tasks over and over throughout the week. And I really believe that we can provide tools to make this something that can actually make use of these great minds that we have working with us. Here we have an example of let's create some modular content, again, from that same study. let's pull this material out and turn this into something we can get approved, get some images attached to, and use that to make material. Now, from here, I'm just going to skip forward to authoring assist, because I think you can see connected to your Vault, PromoMats, or Medcoms, or whatever your system of record is, we can pull something out in a sane, referenced, relatable way that can serve a number of different tasks. But in the end, we want to fill out this campaign. We want to do more things. So we really believe we want to get you to that point where you can say, I want to create a Remapan email for cardiologists in Italy about the latest clinical data, and have that be literally all that you have to say. This is the sort of thing you would tell a colleague, hey, I need help with this, and then have the system actually execute on that. So here's an example that I took down and was doing live in Madrid at the Viva Summit, but here we're picking a template from our design system. I'm picking a pool of content to work from. I've got my template here on the right. The first thing that it does is it summarizes the available data to tell me a bit about what I can refer to or build content from based on those documents that I've selected. And that's, of course, created on the fly. I can use different pools of content to build different things out if I feel like it. And then here, all I need to say, well, make this section a summary of the study design and tell me which groups had the greatest improvement. It's actually going and looking at the structure of my template. I've got an image, a strap line, a headline, a body area, and generating material that fits my writing style, the persona that I've selected, and building that for me on the fly. This is the first step. And I'll talk a little bit about where we're going with this technology over the course of 25. But this is something that we're working with partners like Danon and Lynn's team with today. And we're scaling this at a really high velocity because there's such a huge excitement for it. And honestly, I'm just having a lot of fun working with the team and our partners in pharma to actually do this. So here's where we're headed in 25. And this is literally just for authoring assist. This isn't even about the creation of better methods of discovery and recommendation and other things that we'll be doing as well. We started with Content Assist. We're at the level of AI tactic authoring, using approved material, the right reusable templates that have a quality to them, and the ability to prompt and design an individual tactic. We're moving into the variations during Q1, where you're going to be able to say, these are the personas in our market, these are our channels, this is how we write a headline, giving some of those examples to the system so that we can then create from one piece, multiple pieces. Here's the 6 personas we care about. This is my brief for this particular email. Make all these variations for me. And then in collaboration with the machine, refine that, do some manual edits, prompt it to say, be a little, tighten this up, or you can be a little more expressive here. It's not just a one-way automation pipeline, but we will get to that point where we're scaling up further and further so that by the second half of next year, we're not going to be talking about make an email or make variations of emails. We're going to be delivering systems that you're going to say, I need to make an omni-channel campaign for these 6 audience segments at these different areas of the adoption ladder. Help me plan that out, and actually using the best practice documents, the marketing guidelines, the communication strategies that exist in your Vault, inform the strategy of actually building this out for you, giving you an interface and giving you a way to drive those tactics back into your approval system, backed up with content modules, pre-approved, and maybe synthetic modules created on demand so that reviewers can actually process them in a feasible way. We're doing all of this hand in hand with our partners in the industry, testing it out as we go. As Lynn said, we have to be pragmatic and we have to be able to show the value at each point. And that's what we're focusing on. We're not trying to boil the ocean all at once, but focus in on these key things that do have to us up more easily. And from that, I will hand it back to the wise panel that I'm sharing this time with to a reaction and their take on.
Oh, he's such a charmer, isn't he? Especially those comments about Lynn, his client. Thank you, Tor. I really appreciate the roadmap that you gave, if I can put it that way, for how we can mature and some of the exciting things that lie ahead. We have 9 minutes to go, and we want to try and talk about how we go from the roadmap that Tor talked about to reality. Nina, for example, Nina, you're not working with Anthill yet. And I would love to know, just very honestly, what your reaction to what Tor's saying is. And you don't have to be nice to him, I promise. But just if you wanted to go down this roadmap, what are the practical things that you would have to hold together on your side, colleagues, systems, processes, to actually bring this to light? Can you give us any idea of that? And by the way, I'm going to ask another poll question in the background, so you'll see that appear. Just answer it when you see it. Nina, over to you.
That's good. Answer is short, a lot. So you have to pull a lot of people in, right? Be transparent, saying the needs, right? I think that's the easiest part, right? Trying to tell what we could get with it, right? In terms of content, in terms of everybody's needs. You know, we all have our own objectives and where we want to go. We can address a lot of them. So pulling people together, and then everybody needs to do their own work in their own corner and then come back together, right? Because I can't solve it all for all of them. I can tell what I would like to have and what we would solve with that from our part, you know, being commercial, being medical. But I would need legal people, people that do the reviews, all that, to put them together. So we're coming back to that cross-functional, teamwork, and really believing in that. Perhaps I need to build a case like Lynn, to say.
So Nina, say you've got you've got everyone together, you've managed to do what Cara
Yeah.
did and get all of her people in the same room for a day, and you agree on a whole loads of things you want to achieve. You can see the question I've asked to the audience. Do you go after pilots first? Is that the smart approach? And if you do, you can see I've asked the question, this very question: what is the best way of getting these pilots up and running? We know that the industry has more pilots than the airline industry. So just having lots of pilots is only half of the answer. And I want your advice here on making sure it actually works.
Yes, I would love pilots, but I think it's nice to put pilots so that we somehow close the circle, so they're not all in a few areas and then unconnected, which we don't get anywhere still, right? Why don't we pilot still small, but then trying to get from, insights to feedback, and we close the loop and somehow get those insights? Because again, we can do parts, get super insights, but if we don't do anything with them, again, we didn't get anywhere, right? So how can we pilot so that we pick an area, pick a product that's perhaps, easy to pick or whatever, and pilot around it, right? Get from A to Z and see how that works. I think then it's also easier to prove what did we achieve that is more meaningful to more people, right? It's not just we did it faster or we did more or we did whatever, right? It's the whole thing. So I think for me, yes, pilots definitely, but not just isolated pilots that then we applaud on, but don't move us anywhere,
Okay. Lynn or Caro, both of you have different experiences of pilots as well. I want to hear your pearls of wisdom, if you have any, for adoption in general, but any specific words you have on pilots as well.
Sure. From me, I think I want to actually move away from the word pilots, because pilots have a start and an end date, and then you have learnings, and then you're kind of like, boom, 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 so what? So I know that I'm doing AI pilots at the moment because everybody knows what a pilot is and it's not super scary, but I actually want to move into this mindset change of, we're going to do this, and it's not like, just because we don't test AI doesn't mean that the world is going to stop using AI. It's kind of like a forced, change and evolution upon which we're trying to improve ourselves and go with the times that we have. So in a lot of the conversations I have with my regulatory teams and legal teams, is saying, oh yes, we're doing a pilot, it's safe, it's cuddly, we can all kind of feel it and give it a hug. But in the end, my challenge back to them is that, like, this is coming for you. Like, it's coming, yes and yes, in a couple of years from now. This is going to be the standard of how we're doing it. So we can either start and go in and try to fix it in a more manageable way now, or we're going to be left behind. So I'm trying to also install this kind of like, pilots are good to have, but it's a mind shift change that we're saying this AI is going to be the future, and we're going to have to need to come to grasp with it and try to get the most out of it as a company.
Thank you. I'm going to end the poll now, which, as you can see, has been about pilots and adoption. Cara, you've already talked quite a lot about how you got your stuff going, but if you've got another quick sentence, it has to be quick because we're running out of time on this, then please do share it now.
Yeah, I think we're very aligned with everyone in the comment, and also in the chat. I think the most important is how you move from pilot to business as usual. And I think that when you identify which pilot you will implement, you also need to implement, okay, those are easy to implement and to move forward and escalate in the different cluster and also in the adoption. So I think that is the most important, work together, have this also iteration and share the news insight. I think the communication is key, especially nowadays. This AI and technology are moving faster, and we need to be on board, especially in pharma. We always are very scared about new technology, and sometimes I see other pharma or big pharma especially that they are starting before to analyze or before to implement a pilot, they create a mitigation plan. And come on, just start, try and see how it's work. And if you involve the right person and the right team, or you align with the compliance, I think there is no mitigation that you need to cover. So my invitation is stay curious. Let's try. And if you are have a mistake, well, that is the benefit to work in pharma. Also in digital, you have data, you can fix it, and it keep improving. So I think that is the most important or highlight that I can share.
Thank you, Carrie. I appreciate your positivity. You can see the results of the poll. We've got 32% people saying a pilot in parallel with existing processes, which I thought was quite interesting. And then the second part, a clear winner. It's all about scaling once you've got your next steps up and running. Probably no surprise there. Okay, we've got 2 minutes left. I'm going to do one final poll, and I'm also going to ask Tor. You get to answer the questions about pilots as well. Again, how you would like to see people working across this, but you also have to combine it with measurement as well. And any final tip you have on evaluating the success of AI, if that needs to be any different from how we do it in other fields. So yeah.
I'll exclude all of the ML ops, is this a good model question, and put that to the side. But fundamentally, an AI pilot shouldn't be treated different than any other pilot. We've seen and we've experienced how difficult it can be to move on when you don't have a clearly agreed set of things that you're going to test from day one. When you don't have a clear list of metrics and what those success might look like from the beginning. The absolute worst thing, which yes, I have personally experienced, is let's go on a journey together and see where we go. Inevitably, your goalposts move around and it becomes very subjective, and was it a success becomes more of a relationship thing. We have found so much value in upfront saying, these are the 4 use cases, this is how we're going to do it, who's going to be involved, and this is how we intend to measure it before we even put the first line of code or deploy the first bit of infrastructure. If we don't have that shared vision, you won't even know if you've succeeded. You might have, but then you have to argue it instead of being able to prove it, hands down. And doing that work up front will be worth it in the end.
Well, very succinct. And for once, we're actually going to end one of my webinars on time. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, guys. I thought that today's discussion was great. We managed to actually talk about how we bring this to life. We didn't talk so much about content performance, but I think we can see that the AI is going to be leaps and bounds ahead of us in so many ways. And we talked about how we can work together with the AI and actually achieving that. Please do answer the next steps questions that is arriving, because we want to continue this conversation. And I know that many of you would like to have your microphones on and be part of that conversation. I want to end by saying a massive thank you to our panel. They've been generous with their time, energy, insights, and even enthusiasm. As Caro said just before we went live, we're going to be she first said we're going to rock, and then she said we're going to be atomic. So I hope that we at least went part of the way to achieving that. Obviously, massive thanks to those of you in the audience, especially those who were vocal in the chat window. You get special gold stars. Thank you so much for that. Any suggestions you have for what we should do? I'm going to hold this window open for a couple of minutes, so please write in the comments any ideas you'd like us to see pursue, perhaps in the new year, as you enter 2025 with a Strong mindset. And until then, obviously, massively good luck with implementing all of this. Please do get in touch with Anthill if they can be of any use. Very happy to help with guidance. You don't have to open your wallet on day one. I advise it, of course, but very helpful team indeed. And once again, really appreciate our panel for being here. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you again in another session.
Thank you.
Talk to you
Thank
soon.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye then.